Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Dads of Football. I'm one of the Dads of Football. I'm Jeremy.
I'm the other dad. I'm Josh.
And thank you for joining us for episode two. Today's topic, we are going to be talking about the Chicago Bears and the future of Justin Fields. There's no one in Chicago talking about this right now, is there?
Very few. You go places. I wear my Bears hat often. I'm surrounded in my basement by Bears stuff. People come over. We don't even talk about it. No one's really that interested.
And I should put it out there. Again, I got the Iowa sign behind me. I'll throw it in. Russ, you can take your drink now. I mentioned Iowa. I care about Iowa football players, and I love the NFL because of football. I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily a Bears fan. Um,
Yep.
I follow them if they're doing great, cool, but I don't really throw my allegiance behind any one team. So when I'm coming from this, I'm coming from a purely unbiased perspective because I don't care if they win or lose, but I will say that as just a football fan, I think that they've taken some of the right steps as a team. And to me, Justin Fields is part of that. We talked about this before, Josh. I was kind of
Yep.
on the vibe that I would like to see them keep Justin Fields. That was then, this is now. I
Yep.
think I'm still leaning there. Where are you at with him?
I mean, as you and I have kind of looked at this for the last probably 2 months, and we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
this quite a bit. Um, I was with you. I was very much leaning in the keep Justin Fields. He's the kind of quarterback you want leading your team. He is dynamic athletically. He says all the right things. You hear all the best things from Courtney Cronin and all the other Bears people telling you how he's the first one in, he's the last one out, he's putting in all that time. All of that I'm in for, right? We're in Chicago. That's what we want, right? We want someone that is going to grind it out, if you will. However, the deeper we get into this, the more I start realizing that I'm probably at a point where um it's probably time to move on. If not for the Bears' sake, for his sake, for Justin Fields' sake. I mean, you and I talked about this briefly before we started tonight, and playing quarterback in Chicago is about as hard as it gets. Our culture celebrates, Bears culture celebrates dynamic, fantastic, hard hitting defenses, ground and pound offensive attacks. And you bring in a guy like Justin Fields or any quarterback for that matter, and their first mess up, we want them gone, right? I feel strongly that the saying that being the backup quarterback is the most loved guy in football, let alone in Chicago, dead on, dead on. So I think we're at a point where, for his sake alone, you could say move on. But then the question becomes, where do you move on to? What are we really going to get? Is Eberflus and um, the Bears brass, are they really going to start changing the dynamics of what exists here in Chicago? Where what are you thinking now?
I you know what? As far as what they're doing on offense, I think that they're going to be in a better spot to nurture a young, talented quarterback, which
Agreed.
Justin Fields is a young, talented quarterback. I just feel like he hasn't had the opportunity to really show what he
Yeah.
can do. You have not a great offensive line. It got better. Problem is, you still have out of the what five pieces there, you had two pieces that didn't work, which left a hole running right through the center of your offensive line.
Right.
Um, you have one receiver and one tight end. I mean, you got to get him at least one other weapon. Uh,
Yep.
you can shore up the line by adding two better players on the line that
Yeah.
than they had. Get him a center, someone that can clog up the middle and be a body for him at least. I just think I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, his stats aren't great. I know he was
Right.
22, in the league and passing, and people are going to look at that. But I'm going to say,
Yep.
really, who's he passing to other than DJ Moore
Right.
and Cole Kemet? Who's he going to? Mooney to me, I'm sorry, I'm going to hate on Mooney. If you throw him on other
Yep.
good teams, he's probably no better than a fourth receiver.
Right. He's at best your four who comes in just to blow the top off the defense. I mean, there is nothing. Look, did he have some flashes? Absolutely. Is he gifted athletically? Sure. Did nothing, right? I mean, Justin Fields had fewer passing yards than Desmond Ritter. He had no one else he was throwing to, with the exception of the occasional receiver who had a couple of catches that we got excited about. But you've got DJ Moore, you've got Komet, and nothing else, and no line to really protect him.
No.
So
Well, which is why he has to, and I get this. Okay. Yes, he holds on to the football for too long.
yeah,
However, if I'm looking at option number one, okay, DJ Moore's out. I can't throw to him. And then I'm going to Cole Kmet number two, and he's covered. And then all my other guys can't separate because I've got Mooney and Velus Jones to throw to.
yeah.
You probably hold on to it too.
I think the reality is you've not put pieces around to support him, and being consistent with the running game isn't enough anymore. That NFL is for all intents and purposes long gone, right? It can't just be, well, we're going to run the ball and not throw it. We have to have ability. We have to have the ability to stretch out the defense. We have to have the ability to get the ball downfield a little bit more, right? And he doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the receivers. Yeah. I mean, I feel for the guy. I can't even fathom. You're excited to come play in Chicago. You're looking and going, man, it won't take much for me to be the best quarterback in history of this franchise, considering the two guys you might bring up, whether it's Sid Luckman or maybe even Jay Cutler. He can be better. He could have been better than that, but no question, in Chicago, again, the culture does not set up for a quarterback. Certainly does not. Was it fun to watch him run all around? Absolutely. Was it fun to watch him throw for just a few more yards than Joshua Dobbs? That's problematic. And that's no knock on Joshua Dobbs. He is a far more intelligent man than I am. I believe he's a rocket scientist, and he comes from a family of rocket scientists. But when you're Justin Fields, you're highly touted, coming out of the Ohio State, you expect more, but they didn't give him more. So it's time for him to move on. Maybe go to Pittsburgh, maybe go to Atlanta.
To that aspect, Craig Krenzel was a genius too, and he couldn't throw for shit. So, and there's a Ohio State guy for you too. On top of that,
Fitzmagic though. That's a Harvard guy right there.
Yes, so. And he definitely had more ability, but yes. I'm not ready to send Fields packing, because what's the alternative? No. Okay, we get Caleb at the number one pick. Yep. And do we just destroy him too and then say, oh, well, let's go get another guy?
Right. The thing is, and I was watching Louis Riddick today quite a bit, talk about how Washington needs to trade with the Bears. They need to go all out. They brought in Cliff, and he's, best friends with Caleb Williams, and no one knows him better, which might be true, right? I clearly can't know that, but it does, by all accounts, appear that from a purely optic standpoint, right? Watching film, seeing what Caleb Williams is able to do in the pocket, out of the pocket, his and we've talked about this before, you and I, his off-platform throwing is incredible. But is the culture set up to support him? Are the receivers here to help him? Does that really exist? So to your point, is moving on really going to be moving on, or are we going to be in the same place in 3 years from now, looking at a guy with under 2,700 yards every single year? But hey, he rushed for 800, 900 yards because he was running for his life.
The one last thing I'll say about Justin Fields, and the one thing that he has that I don't know that Caleb Williams can ever get, the locker room of the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields has the locker room. Those guys love him. Every one of them says terrific things about him. This is our guy. We want him here. Give him a chance. They have his back. They want him here. Caleb Williams, when he comes in, first of all, he's not going to have those guys because they're not his boys, right? He hasn't played with them. And can that happen? Can people most people could foster that if you're just down to earth, a good dude. And I'm not saying that Caleb Williams isn't. However, there's possible evidence there that maybe he's all eyes on me kind of guy. If we go to the chatter from USC and the fact that you have his backup throwing 6 touchdowns and players screaming, "We're a team now," that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you and I have used this analogy probably unfairly, but it feels pretty accurate. It feels more and more like the Bo Callahan story from the epic NFL movie Draft Day. It feels more and more like no one's going to the guy's birthday party. I mean, at the very least, that post bowl game, um, I don't recall his team being that excited ever, which probably isn't fair. I mean, when he was at Oklahoma, he throws for 1,900 yards. In his first year at USC, he throws for 4,500 yards. Last year, he threw for 3,600 yards. I mean, he's a Heisman winner. He's dynamic. He's fantastic. And yet, they don't have him for the bowl game, and the team certainly seemed happier. So, to your point, can he rally an NFL team? They don't care that he's the number one pick. They don't care that he's got a Heisman. None of that matters. Can you lead them to victories? That's all they care about.
Final point before we finish up on this one, a quick hitter here. Do the Bears right now know what they're gonna do?
You would think
I don't think they do.
basically 2 weeks away from the combine, you would hope, I wouldn't say think, you would hope that they have a sense of that, right? It it certainly doesn't appear that they do. You aren't hearing things coming out of Bears brass. You aren't hearing things come out of Eberflus's mouth. You're not hearing reporters come up with information. So I just wonder if there's no sense of that yet, what they're
I
going to do.
I honestly think that this I first of all, I really don't think if you were to ask Poles, how is this going to turn out? I don't
Right?
think he knows. I think it's 50-50. I really think it's 50-50.
Probably.
And I think it all depends on what he's being offered on both ends. What is he
Yep.
being offered for the first pick? And what is he being offered for Justin Fields? And which
Yeah.
one of those? I mean, he's going to end up having a piece of notebook paper and he's going to end up recording pro, con on both
Right.
sides, and which one
Yes.
works out better. That's what I think is going to happen.
The amazing thing to me is you continue to hear how the Bears are going to get Atlanta's first round pick. And so therefore, like, they can trade Fields, and then with the number one pick, they can go Caleb Williams, and then the number 9 pick, they can go edge rusher, and then they've got all this draft capital to make these moves. But I don't think that exists. I will say that, to me, the more you hear Bears gossip, Bears rumors, to your point, what are they really going to get for Justin Fields? And are they prepared to be able to support Caleb Williams? Does that exist for them? Um, and I think you're right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure they know what they're going to do. Again, you'd hope so, but it sure doesn't feel like it.
Now, if we're playing the odds here and we're saying, okay, so no one's going to give you a haul for Justin Fields at this point, people have
Right.
said maybe you get a second round pick
Yep.
and that's it, which would be a horrible waste there. I'm sorry. It would be a terrible waste if that's all you got back from
Yeah.
was a second round pick.
Be
You'd
a
have to
shame.
get more than that. It'd be awful. So who's going to give him the best deal? Washington, there's a lot of chatter. They might get the best deal from Washington
Yeah.
for Caleb Williams.
So, however, though, that deal, right? Assuming that it is the best in the sense of picks and draft capital, right? Do they get a player from Washington as well? That is when it starts, to swing, where you feel like, okay, the Bears are going to be just fine. They can still, the second pick, they can go with Drake May. They can still make that move. Still get their young quarterback. Still move Fields if they want. Plus load up on what Washington's going to give. But I also don't think that Washington needs to do that. You and I have talked about this quite a bit. Again, Caleb Williams, very, very talented. Drake May's raw, right? Drake May is a big boy and probably not too unlike Justin Herbert. Although I think you and I talked about some other comparisons.
Mhm.
And you just wonder, is Washington playing the long game here to see if the Bears crack? And if not, they'll just hold on to that too.
If they think that Caleb Williams is a generational quarterback, the type of guy that some people think that he is,
Yep.
then you're willing to give up a lot of things for that guy. And maybe it's not as much as learning from what not to do, a la the Carolina Panthers a year
Right.
ago. Maybe
Right.
you say, okay, we're not going to give you, the next 3 years of our first round draft picks. We're just not going to do that.
Right.
Maybe they say, okay, we'll flip with you. We'll give you one more. If maybe you don't get other than one additional first round pick, maybe you hit them hard in second round picks and you get a
Right.
haul of those, which I would be okay with because there's a lot of good talent in second
Yes.
rounds. I might be okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, time and time again, you see second and third rounders, especially when you're talking linemen, right? And even for that matter, receivers, you're seeing that those picks are incredibly valuable, right? Pro bowlers. So you just wonder if, yeah, I mean, is that really where this is going to go? Is
And
that truly an option?
and you give me Payne at defensive tackle possibly.
Right. Right.
I
Which
mean,
the
I
Bears
may
sorely need.
and then you can draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 2. I
I'll
mean,
take a six. I'll take a 6'4" receiver that can stretch a defense. Yes,
if
please.
you could get that type of deal, and I'm sorry, I don't think anyone can put a better deal on the table than Washington. I just don't think
No.
you're going to get a better haul. If you could end up getting Payne, Marvin Harrison, on top of an additional first rounder and a couple
Right.
picks after that, and not even first round. I think people that think you need to get, multiple first round
Right.
picks, it's not going to happen. They're not going to. We
No.
saw what happened last year when a team did that, and it went terrible.
Although Bryce Young threw for more yards than Justin Fields. Just saying. Just saying.
Yes, he did. I'll give him that.
Yes.
But it still didn't go well.
No. No. Well, he was throwing for more yards because they were behind in every single game.
Yes. Well, and what I will say to those watching, before we sign off here, next week, essentially, we are going to be doing extensive combine discussions. We are going to be tearing through
Can't
every
wait.
single position. We are going to be given the skinny on everything. And then what we can do is once the combine actually comes and once it occurs and
Yep.
once it passes, we can go back and look at what we said ahead of time and then what the numbers actually
Yeah.
are and what we saw
Yep.
at the combine. Because hey, this is all being recorded, it's record.
Right.
But I think we're gonna have a lot more to say about Mr. Caleb Williams in the next week.
Sure thinking we're gonna get more and more information as we go, and I cannot wait for the combine. That is for me, next to the Super Bowl and the playoffs, most exciting time of the year. I love watching those kids compete.
Well, with that, I'm going to say to those watching, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, uh, jump on board the Dads of Football bandwagon, and we'll see you next time.